Good afternoon. This is Lucky Links. A few years back, it was actually quite a while back now, I was in a restaurant and a waitress came to me and she asked me what I did. And when I told her what I did for a living, she told me about her husband. When he was a young boy, about 12 years old, he went to a psychic. And it was one of those sort of storefront psychics who says things like, you're going to have this many children, you're going to be divorced this many times, you're going to have this, and this happen throughout your life, right? And what she told him was he was going to die when he was 40. So the woman was really upset, and she was kind of worried because she says her husband had actually just turned 40, and he was extremely nervous and extremely worried. And because I knew at the time a great deal about hypnosis, I said, look, here's what can happen. When you've got a kid who at that age is impressionable and speaks to someone who has this mystical sense of authority that this woman probably presented herself with, it would be very easy for the child to go into a hypnotic trance and take that woman's word as this is what's supposed to happen in your life, one thing after another, and then he would literally form his life to follow that. Now, I'm not saying that you can't predict some things about a person's life, but I knew with every fiber of my being that was the trick that she played. She played the I have the authority hand, which is why when I was doing festivals and things like that, whenever a young man or a young woman who were really young would come to me and go, hey, would you read my palm? I would usually tell them, look, these are your strengths, and this is, you can make anything happen. You are at the age where you can make anything happen you want, and you have to choose it. But when you take someone who's impressionable, and this is a child or an adult, and you tell them this is what's going to happen, boom, 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 what I believe happened was that stuck in his mind, that stuck in his subconscious, and it played out over his life. And I said, you tell your husband that woman was full of crap. She put him in hypnotic trance. He followed it out. It's his choice whether he wants to live or die. I never saw her again, but that was one of those moments when I realized the damage that someone could who irresponsibly do, who set themselves up as an authority and said, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And then, in that case, he lived a good chunk of his life in fear of 40. Now, the other day I was in a restaurant again, and the waitress came to me, and she knows I do astrology, and we were talking about astrology. And she was talking about her Western astrology, and she told me what this astrologer that she went to, the things that she had said. And in true fashion of many of the Western astrologers out there right now, she didn't even follow her own rules of astrology. She was making all sorts of assumptions that one shouldn't make in astrology. And she said that the relationship pattern, this woman had been in particular relationship patterns that were very challenging, and I knew why, because I knew what her magic squares were. And we sat at the table, we looked up what her magic squares were, and it confirmed it. But this woman who was an astrologer had told her, she said, your job is to be a comfort to people before they die, because she knew quite a few people who had died. They had come to her, they'd been in relationships, and several of them had died. And this woman sort of painted it as though it was her spiritual mission to be the person who comforted them before they died, that they're a safe home, you're a home for them, they come to you and then they die. Well, that's a horrible thing to program in someone's mind, that it's your job to be this port in the storm before they drop. And you could tell she was very heavy in her heart from this, because this woman had laid this trip. It was what it was. It was a trip on her. And I'm going to tell you something. The one thing that I see repeatedly being the most despicable thing that happens in these situations in the modern new age, and with a lot of people who set themselves up as psychics, is they are afraid to say, I don't know, or I can't see why. Well, these are the patterns that are happening in your chart, But instead, she had to make up this myth about why this was happening instead of saying, I don't know. And instead, she laid this trip on her, and it was a guilt trip too, because then she's feeling guilty. It's like, well, they come to me and then they die, and then there's nothing I can do about it. And I said, that is not what's going on. So it showed we actually showed her magic squares, and we showed how what was going on in her life was happening specifically relating to what her dominion was. Now that's a fancy term that kind of encompasses how a person is in their world. And when I actually work on people's astrology charts, I write it up like it's a joust. It's like a jousting. It's like the jousting arena that a person's in, and there are particular knights that fight, and one knight is always going to beat the other knight. And what happens is in this jousting tournament, if you're a certain element, you come up against another element, that other element's always going to win. And what that's trying to do is it's trying to wake you up from karmic habits that are causing you suffering. And that's it. And I said to her, what's specifically happening here? I said, well, that's a load of crap, first of all, that she laid that on you. And you can see, and her whole body released. She gave a sigh. She goes, I believe you. And I said, don't take that garbage on. Don't take that junk on that this other person laid on you. This person who was afraid to admit they didn't know something laid a whole guilt trip on her. And I said, look, you come here in this space. You are in this space. We are in this space. And I've said this in that video about, if you haven't watched it, go watch it, why bad things happen. You are in this space because you either made a wish to end suffering, or you made a wish in another lifetime to reach enlightenment. You are in this space because this particular space is very special. And those people who are in this space are here because of those two reasons. When we do astrology, when we do Tibetan Bond astrology, and when we do Tibetan Bond cosmology, everything we look at is what came in, you were born with, and then we look at what you came in to be. And when the obstacles arise, it's because you're not working towards that thing that you came in to be, to reach enlightenment. And when you move towards what you really are at your core and what you really came in to be, the obstacles start to fall away. Now, that said, I want you all to remember this with what is about to happen in the world and what is happening in the world, because there are some very specific things that we can see in the Tibetan astrology and cosmology that we knew we have been watching, and that we see are happening. I want you guys to think about this. Where in the world have you accepted rhinestones as your true value and put what you really are at your core, what you really came in to be, on the back burner? And I want you to think about this idea where, in these cases where these two psychics told a person basically that you're supposed to be less than you really are. In one case, hey, you're only supposed to live till 40, and then you're supposed to die. And in the other case, where the woman said, well, it's your job to sort of be the guilt, to hang the guilt on for, they're supposed to come to you, and then they're supposed to die. That was putting both of those people in a position that was so far less than what they came in to be, that's true. And the fact is that we have to agree to that. So as the world continues right now with what's going on, I want you guys to ask yourself, why did you come in here? There is a reason why you're here. And where is someone or a group of people or even a large body of people telling you to be less than you really are and to settle for less than what you came in for, which was to either end suffering or achieve enlightenment because you made a vow in another life? And how can you get back to why you really are here? And what values are falling away right now that have been inhibiting your ability to see what you really are and why you really came in and what you can really do about it? I'm Lucky Links, as always, wishing you success and good fortune in all that you do. So remember, there are predictions that can harm people, that are not in the best interest of people, and that don't empower people. When people set themselves up as experts, spiritual experts, and then they dominate people and they force that garbage on them, I think it really does the art of psychic reading and tarot and astrology, it really does the arts a disservice, because that's not the purpose. That these are not here to tell people you're supposed to do, be this, be this, be this, be this, be this, and cast that person in a small thing that's less than the person who's reading you. In both of those cases, that person kind of the person who was doing the reading put the client below them and said, well, you're supposed to die when you're 40, and I'm the one with all the power telling you this, and you're supposed to take care of these people who then drop dead. It really doesn't uplift them, and it doesn't really help them to really find who they are, and it doesn't really give them an opportunity to achieve something greater and be part of a much bigger world. So consider that as things move forward here. Where are people, situations, and circumstances demanding that you be less than you really are? And why did you really come here? And what do you think your real purpose is? And I'm going to tell you, whatever you think it is probably so much bigger than you ever thought possible. Hey, if you would like to get a reading from me, 779-302-8009 or conjurehope@gmail.com. People have been asking me because things are going crazy right now, so people have been contacting me a lot. They're like, are you taking new clients? Yes, I am still taking new clients. As the world gets crazier, people are going to need it more. And yes, I do rearrange my schedule. It may be, in some cases, it may be a little time. Astrology charts are backed up right now. I do have a waiting list for them, but people are still calling me, asking me to do their astrology chart. Hey, we can't find out why you're here. Contact me, 779-302-8009 or conjurehope@gmail.com if you want to get a reading or your chart done. If you want me to do some Khil Khor work for you, I can explain that. That's where we make a map of your life, and then I start to employ Tibetan bond processes to help bring things into being. And find me on Facebook. Hey, there's His Holiness Padma Rinpoche has posted some mantras to help with the health stuff and to explain what's really going on with the health, with spirituality and your health, and mantras to help keep you healthy. And he explains quite a bit in this little PDF that he got to download. If you're interested in getting that, friend me on Facebook, and then let me know, and send me a message through Facebook and say, hey, I'd like that PDF, and then I'll either send it to you or I'll have you I'll connect you with His Holiness, and then he can do it. And then what else? I got classes. I got a playing card class coming up. If you want to take a playing card class, I've got an advanced playing card class starting at the beginning of April. People are already signed up for it. I'm going to be this is going to start with an exercise that shows people kind of how they are working against themselves in their own intuition, and then I'm going to try to help you guys move past that. I'm going to show you 4 ways to look at the suits that you probably never looked at them before. I'm going to teach the Russian star as it was taught to me, and I'm going to show you how to use playing cards to make a process. Those of you who have been asking me, I do have a basic playing card class going on right now. I can put you in. If you want to take a class in tarot, basic or advanced, one in crystal ball reading, one in how to read Lenormand, basic, Lenormand, Grand Tableau, and then I think I got one more. No, maybe that's it. That's all of them. Mexican Loteria. And for those of you who've donated, thank you so much for donating. And if you like these videos, they help you, and you want to donate to help keep them coming, well, then I'm going to put my PayPal, my Venmo in the spot below. Thank you to all of you who've generously donated. Hey, remember, just because a psychic says it doesn't mean that you have to take it on, or an astrologer says it doesn't mean you have to take it on as your identity. Ask yourself, does it help you remove and get to the core of who you are? Or does it decree, hey, you're supposed to do this, this, and this, and then that's it? Anyone who makes a prediction that doesn't allow for change or possibility in there, or for you to ask some questions to come back to your heart, I'd think twice about it. You guys have a fantastic week, and be careful out there. The world is changing, and some new things are coming into being.